Mohammad Abdallah is a pro-democracy activist and director of the Syria Justice and Accountability Center. He was a political prisoner himself in Syria and sought asylum in the United States. He joins us via Skype from Washington, D.C. Good to have you with us. So is this trial, are these trials in Germany a breakthrough?
Absolutely, those trials are breakthrough. They are the first trials ever to have a Syrian official intelligence officer on a trial. We look forward to see what the person will speak, what they will say, how they're going to defend the charges, and what kind of claims they will bring in. Were they forced to do those violations? Is it the nature of the system? We've never, ever had any trials for a Syrian official before, and this is very important.
Do you believe that this is the beginning of a trend, that there will be more, or do you see this simply as a one-off?
Unfortunately, the reality is the number of former officials from the regime who left Syria and ended up in Europe is very limited. It's very little number. So that's why we see the more cases being brought by prosecutors in Europe are related to extremist fighters, foreign fighters, or sometimes opposition fighters who managed to make it to Europe as refugees. So I don't think there will be a big trend of having officials on trials. This is important to shed the light on the violations, on the possibility of bringing those people to justice. But as we know, there's a couple of cases as well being heard in Germany, in France, and Sweden against officials from the Syrian government, but those officials remain on their positions in Damascus and Syria, and they're unable to travel anyway to the EU. So the possibility of having them in the EU arrested in any European country and facing trial is very limited. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a big trend. It might be one-off. It might be a couple of other several single cases here and there, but it's nevertheless very important.
You yourself were a political prisoner. Tell us just how routine is mistreatment, abuse and torture of political detainees?
I was a prisoner before the uprising. I was a prisoner in 2005 and 2006, where the conditions were much better than after 2011, the uprising. Still abuses, use of violence, torture, beating people, hanging them to ceilings, forcing them to sign on white papers sometimes, just they admitting committing violations. Level of violence the security agencies committed was astonishing, and that was only increased after 2011, where those security agencies were given basically a green light to commit any crimes they want. Caesar photos, the military photographer who smuggled thousands of photos of dead bodies, showed us just the tip of the iceberg of what might be happening behind those closed doors in security agencies.
What is happening to the political will? Is it, to pursue justice in Syria, to pursue even peace in Syria? Is it simply dying out of a mixture of being eclipsed by other events like coronavirus and the changing geopolitical reality on the ground?
Unfortunately, the geopolitical reality imposes itself. That's the main thing. In order to have Syria referred to the International Criminal Court or to establish a special tribunal for Syria, we need a Security Council resolution. Absolutely, Russia and China will veto that, specifically Russia after the Russian engagement militarily in the war in Syria. The Russians themselves committed lots of war crimes, and they will not allow a tribunal to be starting or ICC referral. Nevertheless, this political or geopolitics dimensions could change, and it has changed in lots of other conflict where the political atmosphere blocked from having tribunals or justice, but then things changed and those tribunals and trials started later. So I don't think we should lose hope. I think cases like Anwar and Germany case is just a first step and to continue the fight for justice and accountability.
All right, thank you very much for your thoughts and analysis on that, Mohammad Abdallah.
Thank you.